All right, Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Marquas, want to start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, right by Shema Mashak Shai. Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world calls God. Give me 1 second. And Yahweh Shai being the name of his only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. All right, now I'm going to come back with this quick video, right, on not to be like certain men that's written of in the Bible. All right, not to be like certain men that's written of in the Bible. And if you are like these certain men, then it's a good chance that you may not make it. All right, it's a good chance you may not make it if you're not like these, if you are moving in the spirit of these certain men. And I also want to say shalom to all the saints, all the brothers and sisters out there, truth and sincerity, laboring, doing what they can do to put in their brick to benefit the ministry, serving the Most High in the name of his only begotten Son in righteousness, on fire for the Most High, week in and week out. All right, I want to kick it off with this quick precept in 1 Corinthians. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 15. Let's go to the chapter 13. All right, it's the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse number 5. All right, 1 Corinthians 13:5. It says, that's not what I want. 2 Corinthians. All right, 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5. It says, examine yourselves, whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahweh Shai Hamashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates. So the Lord said we have to prove and examine our own selves. And as we read through the precepts, as we read about our different forefathers, you have a lot that were righteous. Right, you had Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Right, you have Samuel. You have Yahweh Shai, King David. Right, you have Hezekiah, and the list goes on. But you also have men in the Bible that you want to refrain to be like. Or you want to abstain from certain men as well. And as you read through the precepts, you want to make sure what type of spirit you're in and how you're in line with these certain men. Let's go to the book of Luke. Then I believe that's the 9th chapter. All right, let's go to the book of Luke. Salakia. All right. Let's go to Luke chapter 9, verse 51. Let's go to the book of Luke chapter 9 and verse number 51. It says, and it came to pass, when the time was come that he should be received up, he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem, and sent messengers before his face, and they went and entered into the village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. All right, this is the disciples going before the Lord to make the ministry ready before Yahweh Shai gets there. It says, and they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. Right, because around that time, it was still a lot of tension between northern and southern kingdom. All right, the Samaritans being northern kingdom through the spirit. It says, verse 54, and when his disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias did? And he turned and rebuked them and said, ye know not what manner of spirit ye are of. All right, that's the part I want to harp on, verse 55. It says, but he turned and rebuked them and said, ye know not what manner of spirit ye are of. So in the last days, you want to know what manner of spirit you're moving in. Right? Are you moving in the spirit of Cain or Abel? Are you moving in the spirit of the righteous or in the spirit of the wicked? Are you moving in the spirit of King David, or are you moving in the spirit of King Saul? All right. Are you moving in the spirit of Yahweh Shai, or are you moving in the spirit of an antichrist? All right. Now, let's go to John, the 7th chapter. And again, these are questions that we should be asking ourselves on a daily. This is not a one-day thing where you examine yourself. All right. You don't examine yourself only on Sabbath. Or you don't examine yourself only on the weekends or the weekdays. No, when you examine yourself, it should be a constant thing. Salakia. Let's go to John chapter 7. John chapter 7 and verse, I'm going to start at verse number, let me see how I want to start. Matter of fact, let's go to Joshua. Again, so this lesson is going into what manner of spirit you are of. And these certain men in the Bible you want to refrain from. All right, this Joshua chapter 7 and verse 1. It says, but the children of Israel committed a trespass and the accursed thing. And Achan, all right, it says it's like it for Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zebedee, the son of Terah, of the tribe of Judah, took the accursed thing, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against the children of Israel. So you have this brother, Achan. Now let's go a chapter before. Let's go to Joshua chapter 6. He took this accursed thing. Let's go to Joshua chapter 6 and verse number, let me see when I'll start. Joshua chapter 6 and verse, I'm going to start at verse 25. It says, and Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had, and she dwelt in Israel even unto this day. But she had messengers which Joshua sent to spoil Jerusalem. It's like because she had the messengers which Joshua sent to spoil Jericho, Salaki. It says, verse 26, and Joshua adjured them by that time, saying, cursed be the man before the Lord that raiseth up and buildeth this city Jericho. He shall lay the foundation therefore, and his firstborn and his youngest son shall he set up in his gates. So for context, you have Israel, they besieged Jericho. All right, you had in Joshua the 2nd chapter, Rahab, she hid the 2 spies of the children of Israel. So when we read this chapter, we came in and we destroyed Jericho. All right, we came in and we destroyed Jericho. We burnt it with fire. We got the men up out of there, etc. Now back to Joshua the 7th chapter, verse 2. It says, and Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Bethaven, on the east of Bethel, and spake unto them, saying, go up and view the country. And the men went up and viewed Ai. It says, and they journeyed, and they returned to Joshua and said unto him, let not all the people go up, let about 2,000 or 3,000 go up and smite Ai. Right, because it wasn't a reason for Joshua to send the whole army out there to go to war. Why? Because I was a very small country. I was a small country, not a small city. So it doesn't make sense for you to take all of your men to go and destroy Ai. So he said he's going to take about 2,000 or 3,000. Now again, the Lord is in the midst of us, so this surely should be an easy battle. All right, surely we shall overcome Ai easily. It says, and we read the book of Joshua, you seen how Joshua had a conquest of all these Hamitic nations, how he easily destroyed them. Now again, I should be no different. All right, it says, and make not all the people to labor thither, for they are but few. Reading on, verse 4. It says, so there went up thither other people, about 3,000 men, and they fled before the men of Ai. So Israel got put to flight. Now it's the reason why Israel got put to flight. Now remember, we read about Achan in verse 1. All right, I'm going to jump to the point. I'm going to jump to the point. I'm going to actually read on, I'm going to jump down. All right, verse 5, it says, and the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, for they chased them from before the gate even unto Shebarim, and smote them there in the going down. Therefore the hearts of the people melted and became as water. So Israel got faint-hearted after that because of what Achan had did. Let's jump down to verse number 11. All right, let's jump down to verse number 11. It says, I'm starting at verse 10. And the Lord said unto Joshua, get thee up, wherefore liest thou thus upon thy face? Right, because again, Joshua, he sent these men to war thinking that it was going to be an easy overcome, an easy overthrow like how it was before. So now Joshua's countenance kind of down. He's wondering why the Most High didn't deliver them. It says, verse 11, Israel have sinned And they have also transgressed my covenant which I commanded them. For they have even taken an accursed thing, and have also stolen, and dissembled also, and they have put it even among their own stuff. So you had Israel, when they went to battle, they took forth of this accursed thing. Now nobody knows who did it. All right, Joshua's kind of confounded. Here it is, you're winning all these battles. Then you hear someone among you have took an accursed thing. Someone within the camp had a selfish moment. All right, and from there on, the whole body had to pay for it, the whole nation. So in the spirit, this is a very big deal. All right, one man caused the whole multitude of men to be killed and put to death. So when you read Joshua, the 7th chapter, I'm gonna jump down to verse 15. Are you up to see how big this really matter? How big this matter is of what one man or one woman can do to a whole nation of people for one selfish moment. All right, verse 15. It says, Joshua 7:15, and it shall be that he that is taken of the accursed thing shall be burnt with fire, he and all that he hath, because he hath transgressed the covenant of Yahweh, and because he hath wrought folly in Israel. So Joshua rose up early in the morning and brought Israel by their tribes, and the tribe of Judah was taken. So whoever of the nation of Israel brought this accursed thing, the Lord said his judgment is that he shall be burnt with fire. Jumping down to verse 18. It says, and he brought his household man by man, and Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zebdi, the son of Zerah of the tribe of Judah, was taken. It says, and Joshua said unto Achan, my son, give, I pray thee, glory to Yahweh, God of Israel, and make confession unto him, and tell me now what thou hast done, hide it not from me. And one thing we know about the Most High is that nobody can get away. There's no such thing as slipping through the cut. All right, when it comes to coming before the Most High. Here it is. You have. Let me get this quick precept in Sirach. All right, let me type this. in real quick. Go to Sirach chapter 23. Go to Sirach chapter 23. Salakia. I'm gonna just type it right here. I'm gonna come back to this. All right. Let me see. As a matter of fact, I want Hebrews. I'm gonna get it. That's a better precept. Let's go to the book of Hebrews. I believe that's the 4th chapter. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse number 13. All right, Hebrews chapter 4 and verse number 13. It says, neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him with whom we have to do. So Israel is as the sand of the sea, right? Yet you have one man who did God knows what and took of this accursed thing. So as Israel went to battle, they're destroying the enemies. They cut them down. This man is gonna tell you what he did. All right, let's go back to Joshua the 7th chapter. It's gonna tell you what he did. And like the Lord said, everything is naked before the eyes of the Most High. There's nothing that can be hid from him. So as you read this chapter, I know we kind of jumped down, but he went through each tribe, through each family, and he got down all the way to Achan. And that shows how the Lord searches out matters through the Spirit. All right, Joshua chapter 7. And he got it down to the exact very man, to the exact family, to the exact man. All right, Joshua chapter 7 and verse number 19. It says, and Joshua said unto Achan, my son, give, I pray thee, glory to Yahweh, God of Israel. It says, and make confession unto him, and tell me now what thou hast done, hide it not from me. Verse 20. And Achan answered Joshua and said, Indeed, I have sinned against Yahweh, God of Israel, and thus have I done. I saw among the spoils a goodly Babylonish garment, and 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. And I coveted it, and I coveted them. Right? Damn, let's see. Salakia. Salakia, let me go back to that real quick. All right, Joshua chapter 7 and verse number. Where's I at? Let me go back to what I just had. Salakia, Israel. Verse 21. It says, And I saw among the spoils a goodly Babylonish garment, 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight. And I coveted them. So here it is. He went forth to battle, and he coveted the spoils of the heathen. And let me get this in Romans real quick. And that's idolatry. That's lust. I don't gotta grab it. I'm gonna grab it real quick. Let's go to Romans the 7th chapter. So here it is. You coveted a Babylonish garment and money when you were supposed to be going and cutting down the men and women of that land so that you and your brethren can receive an inheritance from the Most High. And again, when you read these precepts, I mean, you want to be able to see what manner of spirit. Now, even though it may not say, okay, he moved in this spirit, he moved in that spirit, you want to be able to discern what type of spirit specifically he was in. And when we read that account, you can see he was clearly in the covetous and a rebellious, a selfish spirit. Because through that, he got his whole army put to flight and killed. Now, guess what? All that blood rests upon his head. And that shows what one man can do. So as we read that account, you want to say to yourself, okay, he did that. Let me make sure the next time I'm put in a position like that, let me make sure I'm not moving in a selfish spirit. Because what I can do can jeopardize the whole body. All right, what I can do can jeopardize different men and women that's round about me. All right, this is the book of Romans chapter 7 and verse 12. Romans 7 and 12. Like Romans chapter 7 and verse number what's that precept? Romans chapter 7 and 12, I'm gonna read down. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy and just and good. And it's like it was then that which is good. Let me get to the point. Salakia. Romans chapter 7 and verse Salakia, Romans 7 and 7. Salakia. It says, What shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law I had not known lust, except the law said, Thou shalt not covet. And that's the milk right there. Except the law said, Thou shalt not covet. So what happened? He came out and he admitted that he coveted, but guess what? The damage was done by then. All right, the damage was already done. Men and women, blood is upon your head already. And for that reason, verse 25 in Joshua the 7th chapter, the Lord gave him his judgment. This is Joshua 7 and verse 25. It says, And Joshua said, Why hast thou troubled us? Yahweh shall trouble thee this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones and burnt them with fire after they had stoned him with stones. And that was his judgment that he got. He got stoned and burnt with fire. Not only him, but him and his whole household. It says, And they raised over him a great heap of stones unto this day. So the Lord turned from the fierceness of his anger, wherefore the name of that place was called the Valley of Achan unto this day. So guess what? The decision of one man can overthrow a whole nation of people. Not just that, the recompense and the judgment that you get that you get from that. Hey, guess what? That could be you getting put to death. This man and his family got burned with fire and stoned. all because of one selfish decision he decided to make. And that was the spirit of Achan. And guess what? Nobody knows what type of mercy the Lord has upon him. Everybody doesn't have the sure mercies of David. All right, everybody doesn't have mercy stacked up so he can always repent. Notice, man, he came out and he said the sin that he did, but guess what? By that time, again, the damage was already done. Your brother's blood is already upon your head. Imagine you being the reason why your whole nation got put to flight, man. Let's get another account. Let's go to the book. As a matter of fact, let's go to Deuteronomy 7. Let's go to the law on that. Deuteronomy chapter 7. And verse number, I want to say that's 25. All right, this is Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse number 25. It says, the graven images of their gods shall ye burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or the gold that is on them. And when you read Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter, it's going into what you should do when you encounter the 7 nations. All right, the Amorites, the Hittites, just like the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites, etc. When we read this chapter, the Lord specifically says what should we do and what not to do when we go before these nations to battle. All right, verse 25 again, it said, the graven images of their gods ye shall burn with fire. Thou shalt not desire the silver or the gold that is on them. But guess what? Achan, he let those thoughts get to his head. He let Satan get to his head. All right, he let that battle with himself and that voice inside his head overthrow him. It says, nor take unto thee, lest thou be snared in them, for it is an abomination unto the Lord thy God. Neither shalt thou bring an abomination into thy house. But guess what? He had the abomination in his house. All right, he had it under his tent. That's off. He trying to hide your sins from the Lord. It says, least thou be a cursed thing like it, but thou shalt utterly detest it, and thou shalt utterly abhor it, for it is an accursed thing. All right, and guess what? He was supposed to abide by this law. But what happened? Because he wanted to do his own thing, the whole nation got overthrown. Let's go to Numbers, the 25th chapter. Go to Numbers chapter 25. Numbers chapter 25 and verse number 1. Salakia. Let's go to the book of Numbers chapter 25. Salakia. And verse number 1. It says, and Israel abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. All right, it says the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab. Verse 2. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods, and the people did eat and bowed down to their gods. And Israel joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Israel. All right, so here you have Israel, who's joined themselves to the daughters of Moab, the daughters of the land, and they've joined themselves over to this false deity, this false god, right? Baal Peor. It says, and the Lord said unto Moses, take all the heads of the people and hang them up before the Lord against the sun, that the fierce anger of the Lord may be turned away from Israel. All right, and you have, I actually want to go to the chapter before. Salakia. I'm actually jump down to verse number, I'm going to read verse 6. It says, and behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman. Right, so as you have Israel going off, you have this man, he's bringing forth a Midianitish woman within the congregation. Right, and when he brought this woman into the congregation and brought a plague within the body, right, it brought a plague within the camp, similar to Achan, and how what he did brought a plague within the camp. It says, in the sight of Moses and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, and Aaron the priest saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. Now, this man, again, he's wrought folly within the body. And we know, let me go to 1 Corinthians real quick, chapter 7. I want to hold this priest. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. We know that a little leaven, let's go to chapter 5. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 5. And again, don't think it takes a whole nation of people for everybody to go off. No, it takes one man. All right, it takes one man. Slakia. Right, yeah, you got Jake still freaking off like the brother said. Right, and again, all it takes is one man for the whole nation to sin. Not just to sin, but for the whole nation to get judged for your iniquity and of your sin. All right, this is the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 5. It says, to deliver such and one unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord Yahushua. It's the point, verse 6. Your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Meaning what? A little sin can cause the whole body to be overthrown. Right? And that's manyfold. All right, that's manyfold. You even have it on a physical level when you have different ailments. Like, for example, cancer. If that cancer gets into your body and it spreads, guess what? You finish. All right, straight up and down. If that cancer, if it gets to a certain degree, a certain level, and the doctors will tell you you got X amount of days left to live. But the minute you detect that cancer, you're supposed to cut it off. Or you have certain times when people get amputated. Their arms get cut off, foot may get cut off, because if it doesn't, that disease is gonna spread and destroy the whole body. The Lord looks at that same thing when it comes to the children of Israel. All right, when one man goes off, he has to judge the whole nation. Why? Because one that brings accountability to the people. All right, let's go back to Numbers 25. Salakia. Gotta get used to this keyboard. All right, this Numbers 25 and verse number 7. And Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the priest, saw it. He rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. So guess what? That man, he brought a plague within the body. And the only way for that plague to be stopped was for him to be put to death and cut out the land. All right, let me read that. Let me read verse 8 again. It says, and he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly. So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel. And that goes to let you know as well, you can't have anyone around you. Or you just can't have anyone around you. You just can't have, you have a man within the camp and all he knows for is talking to other brothers' wives. That brother's going to overthrow the camp. Get the brother away from your wife and away from the brother. Or you have men that, yeah, and again, if you have secret sins, that's why also it's very important for you to kill off those secret sins. Because the spirits that you bring amongst the body, they hot. And that spirit that you're not battling, you're not fighting against it. Guess what? That can spread to the next brother. Here it is. You're dealing with a weed spirit or a lust spirit. You giving in unto it, but yet you're still going to camp. Next thing you know, that same spirit hops on the rest of the camp, and the whole body's overthrown. And again, these things actually happen. That's why we have these accounts. That's why these things are written, for us to learn from it and capitalize off these different accounts. All right, let's go to 1 Samuel, the 18th chapter. Let's get another account. Let's go to 1 Samuel 18. All right, another person. So first you have Achan. We went over Achan and Joshua, the 7th chapter. All right, we went over Numbers, the 25th chapter, about different plagues and men bringing plagues into the camp, getting put to death, judging the whole nation, and them having to pay for that through the Spirit. So off those first two accounts, we know that you don't want to have a selfish spirit, a covetous spirit. All right, a spirit to where you only thinking about yourself in a moment, to where it caused the rest of the nation to be overthrown. All right, let's go to 1 Samuel 18. You also have King Saul. All right, you have King Saul. Go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse number 6. 1 Samuel 18 and 6. And it came to pass, as they came, when David was turned from the slaughter of the Philistines, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing, to meet King David with timbrels, with joy, and with music, and with instruments of music. All right, so King David just came back from the slaughter of the Philistines. All right, coming back from war, you have the women greeting them, the children. It's a good time. All right, verse 7. It says, and the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul have slain his 10,000s, and David, it's like if Saul have slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. All right, so as they're coming back, you got to imagine this too. You have a company of men, all right, coming back from war, from the grievousness of battle, all right, slaughtering men, fighting for the nation. And as they're coming back, you have the women mightily greeting the men. And this is a beautiful scene when you imagine it. When you imagine this scene, this has to be a beautiful moment that was going on. You have the women singing, glorifying the men. Saul has killed his thousands. David his 10,000s. All right, verse 8. It says, and Saul was very wroth. It says, and Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? And that's off. All right, that's off. So you see what type of spirit Saul got. That preeminence demon, right? That preeminent spirit that that I want to be magnified above all spirit. So guess when we read about King Saul, King Saul, nevertheless, he had some good times in his life. There was a point in time when Saul was numbered amongst the prophets, and Saul was on fire, and the Lord chose Saul. But guess what? When you're dealing with certain spirits, you got to learn how to cut them off. And what you learn about Saul is that when these spirits hopped on him, as you read, he never battled them. Now again, there's nothing wrong with a spirit hopping on you. All right, that's normal. It's normal to have spirits hop on you. You can't control a spirit. You can't, okay, well, lust demon, you're going to come upon me at this time, don't do it. And it's going to obey you. No. These spirits are going to come upon you. But it's how you battle them and how you overcome them. All right, it's off if you know you're dealing with a damn weed demon. You just sparking it up all day and you're not battling it. That's off. Versus the man who has that spirit on him, but he's going through the precepts. He's getting counsel. He's calling a brother. He's watching videos. He's on the internet. He's doing things to get his mind focused away from that weed smell and that weed smoke. That's where integrity comes in at, and you actually fighting these different spirits. But verse 8, it says what? And Saul was very wroth, and the saying displeased him. And if anything, you should have been magnifying David, right along with him. All right, Saul should have been magnifying David right along with him. Why? Because David is growing up under Saul. All right, when you go through the precepts, David looked up to King Saul. All right, he played for him. Let's go to that in the next chapter. I believe that's chapter. Let me find this quick precept. 1 Samuel 19. All right, King David actually played the harp for Saul. So King David, for lack of better terms, was Saul's servant. All right. Let me find this quick precept. Let me slock it. Let me get this precept real quick. I believe I'm reading over it. Let me actually jump down. 1 Samuel chapter 18 I'm going to read on. Verse 9. It says, and Saul eyed David from that day and forward. It says Saul eyed David from that day and forward. When really, let's go to the book of Galatians, the 5th chapter. When really he should have been magnifying David, but putting his life down for the nation. All right, this is the book of Galatians, chapter 5, and verse number 24. I'm going to start at 24. It says, and they that are of Hamashiach have crucified the flesh, right? Have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. And we live in the spirit, right? Let us also walk in the spirit. It says, let us not be desirous of vain glory. That's the point. The Lord said, let us not be desirous of vain glory. And guess what? Saul was desirous of vain glory. That's like a brother now. You see the brother's a prospect. All right, the brother, he's been on the line reading. All right, the brother's been holding posts, standing on the other side, taking notes. Next thing you know, when he starts teaching, he starts getting thousands of views, right? Hundreds of views. And this count supersedes yours. Next thing you know, you start getting jealous and envying. Oh, this brother, man, he was just a prospect. Who does he think he is to get these many views? Next thing you know, those spirits start playing in your head. And that was the predicament with Saul and David. All right, he's saying that David was starting to get glorified through the Spirit. It says, provoking one another, envying one another. So the Lord said, let us not be desirous of vainglory. He also said, envying one another. And guess what? That envy demon hopped on Saul. And again, when that envy spirit hopped on Saul, did Saul fight it? No. What did he do? Instead, he allowed it to overcome him and to overtake him. All right, let's go to Sirach 4 and 17. Go to Sirach chapter 4, verse 17. Let me try Ecclesiasticus. Salakia. Let me try 16:11. Salakia, let me get this real quick. Let's go to Sirach chapter 4. Let me see if I can get it from here. I may just have to read it on my Bible real quick. I don't know why it's cool. I'm gonna read it out my Bible. All right, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 4, and verse number 17. All right, this is Sirach, chapter 4, and verse number 17. Now, this is what happens when you don't battle spirits. All right, Sirach 4 and 17, it says, for at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways. And Sirach 4 is going into the spirit of wisdom. All right, the Holy Spirit. So if you don't walk with wisdom, guess what? Let me read that again. For at the first, she will walk with him by crooked ways, meaning she's going to try you. All right, wisdom is not going to just let you go in unto her. She's going to try you. It says, and bring fear and dread upon him, and torment him with her discipline, until she may trust his soul and try him by her ways. So wisdom, she's going to try you before she lets you go in unto her and understand her. All right, verse 18. It says, and she will return the straight way unto him and comfort him and show him her secrets. And that's what Saul had at a point. Again, Saul was numbered amongst the prophets. Guess what? Saul had wisdom. He had the Holy Spirit. Saul knew the secrets of the Lord. Saul knew the prophecies. All right, Saul at one point had the fruits of the Spirit. He had the spirit of wisdom, the Holy Spirit. Verse 19, it says, but if he go wrong, she will forsake him and give him over to his own ruin. But guess what? If you forsake wisdom, guess what? She's going to give you over to your own ruin. So all the spirits that you was dealing with before time, hey, next thing you know, you're going to be falling into those spirits. All right, envying, pride, lust, weed smoke, these different things, wisdom is going to give you over into, all because you didn't want to obtain her. All because you didn't want to fight that fight. And because Saul didn't want to fight that fight, guess what? He got cast away in due season, in due time. Reading on. 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse number 10. And it came to pass on the morrow that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house. And David played with his hand as other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. Now, why is it a javelin in Saul's hand? Why does Saul have a javelin in his hand? Here it is. You have David playing the harp. All right, he playing the strings upon the harp. And Saul's just eyeing him, just envying him. All right, just enraged. All because of what women said. That's off. Here it is, you're mad at a brother for his good deeds that he did for the nation. Now he's getting glorified for it. Now that spirit is hopping upon you, and now you're looking to kill him. Verse 11, it says, and Saul cast the javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with it. And David avoided out of his presence twice. And his anger and his hatred for David was so heavy that he said he wants to pin David to the wall. All right, and that's off with that javelin. And that lets you know how much hatred that Saul actually had in his heart. And that's the spirit that you don't want to take on, that spirit of envy, that spirit of jealousy. Now let's go to Proverbs. Let me see. Let me find this quick precept in the Proverbs. The Lord said, who can stand before envy? That's Proverbs chapter 27 and verse number 3. Let's start at verse 1. Let's go to Proverbs 27. It's the book of Proverbs chapter 27 and verse number, I'm going to jump down. Proverbs 27 and verse number 4. So I'm reading right over it. Proverbs 27 and 4. Wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? All right, let me read that again. Wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who is able to stand before envy? Yeah, when you let that envy demon overtake you, I mean, who's able to stand before you? Your mind is already made up by then about what you want to do to this brother or this sister. Are you been sneak dissing, bearing false witness, tale bearing? Are you been gossiping? Next thing you know, you bring it into action. And you trying to get other people involved with it. All right, that's off. Let's go back to 1 Samuel 18. I'm going to read verse 1, actually. Hey, Saul tried to get his son to turn against David. 1 Samuel chapter 18 and verse number... All right, let me find this quick precept. 1 Samuel 18 and verse... I'm going to start at it's 19. 1 Samuel 19. 1 Samuel 19 and 1. And Saul spake to Jonathan his son and to all his servants that they should kill David. So he took this personal problem that he had with King David, and he tried to get his son involved with it and all his servants. All right, where's the account of King Saul going through the precepts? All right, he's going through he's going through the law, cutting down those different spirits. Again, he's a king. We read Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter. Kings are supposed to be in the law daily. Kings are supposed to write out a copy of the law. But guess what? None of the precepts came to Saul's head. But instead, what happened? He let those thoughts eat him up inside. And again, this can happen to anyone if you're not what? Going through the precepts, self-examining, seeing what manner of spirit you're in and cutting that thing off. There's no account of King Saul doing self-examination and saying, okay, Salaki, you're right, I did go off. Ain't repented and never did it again. No, what happened? He let these spirits continually eat him up inside. All right, let's go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 3. Let's go to 1 Samuel, the 3rd chapter. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse number 10. You have Eli as well, who didn't check the spirit of his sons. All right, let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse number 10. It says, so you have, and again, so going through the list, you have Achan. All right, you have Numbers, the 25th chapter, the man that took the Midianitish woman, and how both of them brought plagues within the camp. You have Saul, who had an envy spirit and didn't know how to love his brother. All right, and now you have Eli the priest. This 1 Samuel chapter 3 and verse 10. And the Lord came and stood and called as other times, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel answered, Speak, for thy servant heareth. It says, verse 11, and the Lord said unto Samuel, Behold, I will do a thing in Israel at which both the ears of everyone that heareth it shall tingle. I'm going to jump down to verse number 13. I'm going to read on. It says, In that day will I perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house. See that? Concerning all things. Right? Spoken all things concerning his house. When I began, I will also make an end. For I have told him, right? For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth. So you had something going on within the house of Eli that Eli knew about that he didn't correct. All right, now Eli, as we know, let's go to the classic 1 Corinthians 13. All right, the man is the head of the house. I start there. That's like 1 Corinthians 11. Let's start there. We all know that the man is the head of the house. All right, 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 3. But I will have you know that the head of every man is Hamashiach, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. So as a man, let's go to Genesis, the 18th chapter. As a man, you're supposed to command your house. You're supposed to have your house ran in order and decency with the spirit of the Lord within it. Let's go to Genesis 18 and verse number 19. Like Abraham commanded his house. All right, this Genesis chapter 18, verse 19. I'm sorry, verse 18. It says, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Now I was going to tell you why the Lord chose Abraham to be that great and mighty nation that should come out of him. Verse 19. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him. So as a man, you should be able to command your children and your household after you to walk in the fear of the Most High. Like the Lord said in the book of Sirach, chapter 27 and verse 3. I'm going to get that real quick. Sirach 27 and verse number 3. And guess what? Eli was a priest, a high priest. Right? Eli was the priest, man. And as a priest, you're supposed to have your house in order, because your sons after you are going to be in the priesthood, learning from you. All right, let's go to Sirach 27 and verse number 3. All right, this Sirach 27 and verse 3. It says, unless a man hold himself diligently in the fear of the Lord, his house shall soon be overthrown. So at least a man hold himself diligently in the fear of the Most High. Guess what? His house is going to soon be overthrown. Let's go back to 1 Samuel. So the Lord told Eli, I'm going to judge you for the iniquity that you know is going on within your household. All right, 1 Samuel 3 and 13. It says, "For I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vow, and he restrained them not." So his sons was freaking off. His sons was going off, and he didn't want to correct them. And as a man, like the Lord said, he's supposed to command your house. Watch over and see what spirit your wife is in, your children are in, teaching them, bringing them up, guiding them, leading them. All right, the Lord said a man's supposed to have preeminence over the house. Let's go to Sirach. I believe that's Sirach, the 33rd chapter, if I'm not mistaken. All right, let's go to Sirach, chapter 33, and verse number 19. Go to Sirach, chapter 33, and verse 19. It says, "Give not thy son and thy wife, thy brother and friend, power over thee while thou livest, and give not thy goods to another, lest it repent thee, and thou entreat for the same again. As long as thou livest, and hast breath in thee, give not thyself over to any, for it is better that thy children should seek to thee, and that thou shouldest stand in their courtesy." It's the point, verse 22. It says, "In all thy works, keep to thyself the preeminence." So Eli has the preeminence over his house. The Lord said, as a man, you're supposed to have the preeminence over your house, and everyone's supposed to answer to you through the Spirit. You're the king of your household. And as a king, what does a king do? He judges righteously. He has righteous judgment. He has discipline set up. He has correction set up in the household. But guess what? Eli didn't abide by that. Do what the Lord set up. And he knew about it, and he didn't do nothing about it, which is off. It says, verse 14, "And therefore I have sworn unto the house of Eli, that the iniquity of Eli's house shall not be purged with sacrifice nor offering forever. And Samuel lay until the morning and opened the doors of the house, and the Lord opened the doors of the house of the Lord, and Samuel feared to shew Eli the vision." Right, so Eli's sons was freaking off, and they was doing it on their own lust. It's gonna show you that. Let's go to 1 Samuel 2 and verse number 12 to see what Eli's sons was doing that was so vile before the Most High. All right, this is the book of 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse number 12. It says, "Now the sons of Eli were Belial. They knew not the Lord." Hold on. It says his sons knew not the Lord. So his sons are supposed to be the priests. Let's read verse 11. "And Elkanah went to Rayam to his house, and the children did minister unto the Lord before Eli the priest." So his sons are priests, ministering before the Most High. How is it that you have priests in the house of the Lord that don't know the Lord? All right, that's wicked. Verse 13. It says, "And the priest's custom with the people was that when any man offered sacrifice, the priest's servant came while the flesh was in seething, with flesh hook of the 3 teeth in his hand." It says, "And he struck the pan or the kettle or cauldron or pot, all that the flesh hook brought up." It's like all that the flesh hook brought up, the priest took for himself. So they did in Shiloh unto all the Israelites that came thither. Verse 15. Let me jump down to the point. Verse number, let me see what I want. Verse 22. It's a lot good. I'm going to read verse 23. I'm going to read verse 22. All right, let's read verse 22. It says, "Now Eli was very old." Right now, Eli was very old, and heard all that his sons did unto all Israel, and how they lay with the women that assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So Eli's sons was freaking off with all the women that brought up an offering. That's wicked at the house of the Lord. And guess what? Eli knew about it. If you know your son is going out committing whoredom and you don't check him, you're going off. That's wicked. That's blood upon your hands. Read Ezekiel the 3rd chapter. If you see someone in iniquity and you don't correct them or you don't rebuke them and they know better, and you just let them let them do God knows what, guess what? That blood is going to be upon your hands. So this blood that Eli knew about and all the wickedness that Eli knew about was upon his head and upon his hands. Verse 23. It says, and he said unto them, why do you such things? For I hear of your evil dealings by all this people. So he heard what his sons did. Said, hey man, why y'all committing all this whoredom? Right? This whoremongering. All right. Verse 25. If one man sin against another, the judge shall judge him. But if a man sin against Yahweh, who shall entreat for him? Notwithstanding that they hearken not unto the voice of their father, because the Lord will slay them. See that? So they didn't even hearken to the voice of their father. And just because your kids don't hearken unto you, don't mean you still don't correct them. Doesn't mean you still show them the right pathways. No, you lay down judgment within your house. But guess what? Eli, he just let it go over his, he kind of just let it, just gave him a pass. And for that reason, guess what? His house was overthrown. And that blood and that iniquity that was going on within his household, the Lord said he will forever judge his household, man. So guess what? You don't want to move in the spirit of Eli or his sons. All right? You want to be able to lay down judgment, lay down structure, lay down order. And even if you don't have a household, guess what? You should be doing that upon yourself. All right? Giving yourself strict judgment. Give yourself strict ordinances to follow by so that you won't go off and destroy yourself. All right, let's go. Let me get another account. Let's go to Acts chapter 5 and 34. Go to Acts the 5th chapter. Block you. Go to Acts the 5th chapter. It's the book of Acts chapter 5 and verse number 34. It says, then stood there up one in the council a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, and in reputation among all the people, and commanded to put the apostles forth a little space. All right, when you read Acts the 5th chapter, you have men coming up against the apostles, trying to hinder them and stop them from doing the work. So you have Gamaliel, who's a doctor of the law. Right, this man, he raised up Paul through the Spirit and under the law. All right, through the Spirit. And guess what? He's coming before the people and letting them know, don't come before the apostles. It's gonna tell you why he said that. I'm gonna jump down to verse 39 real quick. Right, Acts 5 and 39. He's gonna tell you why that you shouldn't come up against the apostles. It says, but if it be of God, meaning the work that the apostles was putting in, if it be of the Most High, ye cannot overthrow it. So I'm going to read verse 38. Salaki, verse 38. Now I say unto you, refrain from these men, and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. Right? So if the apostles was doing this work and it was of the will of man and their own will, guess what? The Lord's going to overthrow it and put it to naught. Verse 39. But if it be a Yahweh, ye cannot overthrow it, least happily ye be found even to fight against God. So he's letting these men know, hey, don't come against the apostles, because the Lord is going to deal with them how he seems fit. And as he's talking to the crowd of people, he brings up an example of one man who was overthrown. All right, let's read verse 35. Acts 5 and 35. And he said unto them, ye men of Israel, take heed to yourselves, that ye intend to do such things to these men. For before these days rose up Thaddeus, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain. And all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught. So again, as he's talking to the people, he's bringing up past examples of what happened. He's reminding them about Thaddeus. Now you can read about Thaddeus in history. All right. Thaddeus the Jew, or Thaddeus the Zealot. Let me type that in. All right. Thaddeus the Zealot rebellion. All right, let's see what they got on Thaddeus. Now, you can read about Thaddeus in history, like I was saying, and what happened to Thaddeus and why he was overthrown and why he was made an example. All right, let's go into it. All right, let me find a quick point real quick. I'm gonna read, and also you can read about Thaddeus and Josephus as well. All right, I'm gonna read this section right here, the revolt. All right, I'm gonna read this first part, this highlighted part already. It says Thaddeus was a Jewish. Now we know he was a real Jew. All right, Thaddeus was, I'm gonna say Judean. All right, Thaddeus was a Judean, a so-called Jewish rebel of the 1st century A.D. Scholars attribute to his name a Greek etymology, possibly that means following with water. It says, although with a Hellenistic style ending at some point between 44 and 46 AD, Thaddeus led his followers in a short-lived revolt. So Thaddeus led his men to revolt against who? The Romans. Now, we read about the Zealots. The Zealots was a sect of Jews. Now, you had many sects. You had the NCs, the Pharisees. You had the Sadians, the scribes, the Sakari. Not the camp, but the actual sect back then. You had different sects. Now, the Sakari and the Zealots were one of the main two sects that was known for their mentality of war and rebelling. So Judas, he was a part of the Zealots, and he led his followers into a short-lived revolt. All right, so he was moving. He was moving in the wrong spirit, revolting against the Roman Empire when it wasn't time yet. All right, reading on verse, and I believe when you look at the dates, from 44 to 46 A.D., I was kind of going into it. That's around during the time of Claudius. All right, of the Emperor Claudius. Now, before we get to that, I'm gonna read this this paragraph right here. It says, it came to pass while Cuspus Fadus was a prosecutor of Judea, that a certain slack for the pronunciation, charlatan, whose name was Thaddeus, pursued a great part of the people to take their affections with them and to follow him to the Jordan River. For he told them how he was a prophet, and that he would by his own command. See that? And how he would by his own command. Not by the Lord's command, but by his own command. Let me get this quick precept. Let's hold this. Let's go to the book of Joshua, the 9th chapter. So he was moving in the wrong spirit, off his own command. When did the Lord say move off your own command? All right. Let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 9, and verse number, let me find this quick precept. Joshua chapter 9 and verse number, is it an M? Let me find this quick precept. I believe I'm reading right over it. Joshua chapter 9 and verse 14. I believe I was reading right over it. Let me see if that's what I want. This is Joshua chapter 9 and verse 14. It says, and the men took their victuals and asked not counsel at the mouth of Yahweh. Let me read that again. And the men took of their victuals and asked not counsel at the mouth of Yahweh. So before everything you do, what are you supposed to do? Call upon the name of the Most High. Supposed to beseech the Lord and ask, is this the right path? Is this the right decision? Is this the right move that I should be making? All right, we read the Psalms, not the Psalms, we read 1st and 2nd Samuel, and King David, he always inquired of the Most High. But what did Thaddeus do? He said, and that he would by his own command, not of the Lord's command, but by his own. That's off. And then people that followed him, you have to only imagine what type of spirit they were moving in. God forbid you just tell a man, hey, I know the Lord said this, but I'm going to do this. And it is what it is. And we're going to rock out. And the whole multitude just follow you. Oh, that's off. Let's go to Psalms chapter. Let's go to Isaiah 8 and 17 real quick. We're going to go back to that. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 8 and verse number 17. Let's see what the Lord said. It's Isaiah 8 and 17. It says, and I will wait upon Yahweh. So that's what Isaiah said. I'm going to wait upon the Lord. I'm not going to take actions into my own hands. I'm going to wait upon the Most High. I'm going to wait upon Yahweh Shah. I'm going to wait upon the decree that the Lord sends forth. It says that hideth his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for him. So what spirit was Judas in? To where he said, I'm going to do this by my own command. That's off. It says, and that he would by his own command, right, divide the waters and afford them an easy passage over it. So now he's saying he's going to divide the waters as if he's Moses, right? As if he's Joshua or Elijah when they divided the waters. It says, and afford them an easy passage over it. Many were deluded by his words. However, faults did not permit them to make any advantage of his wild attempt, but sent a troop of horsemen against them. After falling upon them unexpectedly, they slew many of them and took many of them alive. They also took Thaddeus alive and cut off his head and carried it to Jerusalem. And guess what? You can read about this in the Jewish antiquities. All right. You can also read about it in the Jewish antiquities and Josephus. So this man, through his own command, led what? A whole nation to be, not a whole nation, but he led a lot of men to be put to death. The same way Achan did. All right. The same way that the man in Numbers, the 25th chapter, did. Let's go to 3rd John real quick. And again, that's what you call the spirit of preeminence. Like Diotrephes. Let's go to the book of 3rd John. Lock it. I don't know what's going on. 3rd John, verse number 9. All right, 3rd John, verse number 9. It says, I wrote unto the church, but Diotrephes, who loveth to have the preeminence among them, receiveth us not. So guess what? This man Diotrephes, he sought the preeminence over the church, and he didn't receive the brethren. In the same way how he had that preeminent spirit, that's what the spirit of Judas had on him. Preeminence. Now let's go back to Acts, the 5th chapter. Because it wasn't just Judas that was made an example. It also had someone else that was made an example by Galilee. Ultimately by the Most High. It's the book of Acts chapter 5 and verse number... I'm going to read verse 36 again. It says... For before these days rose up Thaddeus, boasting himself to be somebody. Right? And again, he said he was a prophet. Just lying to the people. Saying he's going to split the waters. All right, where's the account of him going over Jordan and splitting the waters? Look at that. Right? Divide the water and afford them an easy passage over it. As if he's Joshua. All right. Reading on. To whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain and all as many as obeyed him were scattered and brought to naught. Right? Many were slain, like it said, and guess what? Many was took alive. See that? After falling upon them unexpectedly, they slew many of them and took many of them alive. So they also took Judas and cut off his head and carried it to Jerusalem. See that? Reading on in Acts the 5th chapter. All right, Acts 5 and verse 37. It says, after this man rose up Judas of Galilee. All right, Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing. Wait, before I get to that, you read about Thaddeus and the time period he was around. And that revolt happened sometime around 44 and 46 AD. Now, around that time, you had Emperor Claudius. All right, Emperor Claudius Augustus. That was the emperor over Rome at that time. And around this time, you had all hell breaking loose. You read, I'm gonna get this quick precept in Acts 18. Go to Acts. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna read it. I don't want to jump the gun. All right, but you read about Claudius in Acts the 18th chapter, verse 1 on down, and the expulsion of the Jews. Now reading on in Acts chapter 5 verse 37. After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him, were dispersed. Let's go into it. Let's go to Judas of Galilee. All right. Judas of Galilee. Let's see what they have on Judas of Galilee. All right. It says Judas of Galilee, or Judas Gamaliel, was a so-called Jewish, right? He was a Judean leader who led resistance of the census. All right, imposed for Rome tax purpose by Quirinius, the Judean province, in 6 BC. It says, and encouraged Jews not to register, and those that did, and their houses burnt, and their cattle stolen by his followers. So even even his counsel and the things that he had planned got put to naught. And again, these are men that the Lord didn't raise up. Where's the account of the Lord telling these men to raise up and do these different acts? I actually want to jump down to this paragraph right here. It says several scholars, such as Gunnar, Halad, and James S. McLaren, have suggested that Josephus' description of the fourth sect. It's like that's not what I want. I want to get to the zealots. Let me find this real quick. Here it is right here. It says Judas. All right, I'm gonna read this this last section. It says Judas is referred in Acts of the Apostles, in which a speech of Gamaliel, a member of the Sanhedrin, identifies Thaddeus and Judas as examples of failed messianic movements and suggests that the movement emerging in the name of Yahushua Nazareth, that's off. Why would they put that picture? That's wicked. All right. Nevertheless, that the name of Yahushua of Nazareth could similarly fail. All right. So he was describing how the apostles and how the spirit that they were moving in. Guess what? It's gonna be of the Most High to discern if it's gonna be able to prevail or it's gonna be put to naught. And through the spirit, guess what? We know that the apostles prevail. And we're carrying on their work to this very day. And that was never put to naught. Right? I kind of want to touch on this real quick too. Let's go to Acts the 18th chapter. Just to touch on the time period of Thaddeus. And just to link it up with history real. I don't want to sidetrack too much. But to link it up with history. You had a lot of rebellions around this time. All right, a lot of rebellions. To where the point you have something called the expulsion of the Jews by Claudius. All right, this is the book of Acts chapter 18 and verse number 2. It says, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all the Jews to depart from Rome. So you had Claudius to demand that all the Jews get departed out of Rome. Why? Because there was a lot of rebellions. And one of those main rebellions was when Thaddeus rose up. Now let's look that up real quick. Salakia, Claudian. I'm trying to see how I want to word it. Expulsion, Salakia. All right, this is a quick history. Right, it says since the Jews consistently made disturbances at the instigation of Christus, which is actually Christ through the Spirit. I bet that's what they call Christ, right? Christus. It says the Emperor Claudius, expelled them from Rome, which is mighty. So we was going so hard for Yahweh Shah that we had to be expelled from Rome. It says the expulsion event Suetonius refers to is necessarily later than 41 AD and earlier than 54 AD. All right, and we know Thaddeus, his rebellion was around 44 to 46 AD. So yeah, all hell breaking loose in the Roman Empire. Now the main reason was because you had the Jews that was doing the work of the Most High, right? But you had minor revolts by the Zealots and the Sicarian as well that you can read about. So Claudius said, you know what? Just all the Jews get out of Rome. Just expel all the Jews out of Rome. Nevertheless, if you want to get expelled from something, be expelled from doing the work of the Most High. Let me read this top part again. Since the Jews constantly made disturbances at the instigation of Christus, which is Christ. All right, now again, that's a mighty thing. They got expelled from doing the work. It was getting killed off. Reading Acts the 17th chapter and before that. All right, Acts 17 and 6. It says, and they found them not, they drew Jason and certain brethren unto the rulers of the city, crying, these men have turned the world upside down. Who are the men that turned the world upside down? The Jews that was doing the work, fervent in the spirit, glorifying the name of Yahweh Shah, to where they had to get kicked out of Rome. But not the men, like how in Acts the 5th chapter, that wanted to do their own lusts and lead the people astray. All right, like Thaddeus and Judas. And that's two other men that you don't want to move after. Right, that preeminent spirit. All right, let's go to the book real quick. Let's go to that's First Maccabees, 5th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. First Maccabees, chapter 5, and verse 18. Let's get that. All right. This First Maccabees chapter 5. What is this? They kind of got in a different translation. Let me get this in the KJV. All right, First Maccabees chapter 5 and verse number 18. It says, so he left Joseph, the son of Zacharias, and it's like in Azarias, captains of the people, with the remnant of the host and Judea to keep it. Right? So you have Judas who left these two captains behind. Now he gave the decree for them not to go forth to battle, but that they stayed back and watched the company. Now, let's see what these two men did. Let's see what these two men did. I'm going to read on real quick before I jump down. It says, unto whom he gave commandments, saying, take ye the charge of this people, and see that ye make not war against the heathen until the time that we come again. So he commanded them to not make war against the people until me and my brethren come back. I believe it was Judas and Jonathan, if I'm not mistaken. Judas went to one area, Jonathan went to another area. He commanded them, do not make war until I return. Let's jump down to verse number 56. Let's jump to verse 55. It says, now, what time as Judas and Jonathan were in the land of Gilead, and Simon his brother in Galilee before Ptolemaeus, Joseph the son of Zacharias and Azarias, captains of the garrisons, heard of the valiant acts and warlike deeds that they had done. Wherefore they said, let us also get us a name, and to go fight against the heathen that are round about us. And that's off. Here it is. You have specific instructions. Do not go forth to battle. Next thing you know, he hears about the acts of Judas, the acts of Simon, the acts of Jonathan, his leaders. And he said, you know what? They can do it. I can do it too. All right. So guess what? He rebelled against leadership. He wanted the glorification and the preeminence. And again, you have to make sure that you're not moving the spirit of these men. All right, Thaddeus, Judas, Eli, Achan, the brother in Numbers 25, right? Zacharias, or it's like Joseph and Azarias. Because why? These men, they moved in off spirits to either got them destroyed or their nation destroyed. All right, it says, verse 58, so when they had given charge unto the garrison that was with them, they went toward Jamna. Then came Georgius and his men out of the city to fight against them. And so it was that Joseph and Azarias, it's like that Joseph, man, Salakia, verse 60, that Joseph and Azarias were put to flight and pursued unto the borders of Judea. And there was slain that day of the people of Israel about 2,000 men. See that? So you got your nation again. Another account of men that wanted to do their own thing, having their nation get put to flight. Having the men that you was over get put to flight. All because of the spirit of preeminence that you wanted to move in, and pride. To think when you can rebel against the leadership set up by the Most High and go against it. That's off. Alright? That's off. And again, that's the spirit that Judas was moving in, and the spirit that Thaddeus, through the spirit, was moving in. Alright, let's go to Sirach, the 4th chapter. Let's go to Sirach 4 and 7. Alright. Let's go to Sirach chapter 4 and verse number 7. These damn translations. Alright, Sirach chapter 4. See that? I'm gonna read it on my sword. Alright, this is the book of Sirach chapter 4. And verse number 7. It says, get thyself the love of the congregation, and bow thy head to a great man. Right, I went at the latter end of that. It says, and bow thy head to a great man. What does it mean to bow your head to a great man? It means to listen up, take direction. There's nothing wrong with a man taking order. All right, literally everyone takes order. Yahweh Shah takes order from the Most High. Right, man takes women from the Most High by Hashem Yahweh Shah. Women takes order from their head. And likewise with the children, the mothers and parents that are over them, they take order. At the workplace, you take order. How much more should we be taking order of the accounts of our fathers that's already written out? Let's go to Hebrews chapter 2 and verse number 1. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, therefore we ought to give the more earnest heed to do the things which we have heard, lest at any time we should slip them. So it's imperative that we take the most earnest heed from the things which we heard. What are the things that we hear? The accounts, the precepts. All right, how these different men forsook the right way and went astray. How the men and women got caught up in the wilderness and went left. When you're reading Hebrews, the 3rd chapter, right? And all throughout the law of Israel going astray. That's what the Lord said. We ought to take the most earnest heed. And that's why the Lord said in Sirach, the 4th chapter, we have to bow our heads. Let me read that again real quick. Sirach chapter 4 and verse number 7. It says, get thyself the love of the congregation and bow thy head to a great man. And who are the great men? On one fold, our fathers that came before us. It says, for if the word be spoken by angels, was steadfast, and every transgression and disobedience received a just recompense of reward, how shall we escape if we neglect so great salvation, which at the first began to be spoken by Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, and was confirmed unto us by them that heard them. Right, so it would be a wise thing if we read these accounts and we capitalize off these accounts and made sure and continue to make sure what manner of spirit we're moving after. All right, is it after our fathers on the left-hand side, or is it after our fathers on the right-hand side? Let's go to Hebrews chapter 12 and verse number 1. Hebrews 12 and 1. Let me find this precept as well real quick. All right, it's the book of Hebrews. Yeah. All right, it's the book of Hebrews 12 and 1. It says, wherefore we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. It says, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. And through the accounts that we read, if you feel yourself moving in any of these spirits, preeminence, pride, feeling like you can go against what the Lord already set up, guess what? You got to lay that weight aside. All right, you got to go through precepts on humility, self-examinate. I see where you can do better and increase in through the spirit. All right, because again, these men, if you move in the spirit, these men, you just might not make it. All right. But guess what? That's why the Lord set up these different accounts for us to learn from. Go to the classic. Romans, the 15th chapter. Go to Romans 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning. And the things that we went over through the Spirit is all written for our learning. To capitalize off of it. That we may not be like them that fell by the wayside. It says that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. See that? That we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. The book of Hebrews chapter 4 and verse number 1. Hebrews chapter 4 and verse 1. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left of us of entering into his rest entering into his rest of any of you should seem to come short of it. So I'm gonna read that again. Let us therefore fear lest a promise being left of us entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. And what is that promise and that rest? It's the kingdom of heaven. So God forbid we come short to enter into that rest, all because we didn't put away that sin that doth so easily beset us. Like how Saul didn't put away that envy spirit and that hateful spirit. Like how Eli didn't have a spirit of judgment and correct his sons. Like the spirit of preeminence with Thaddeus, right? And Judas, right? And Azarias and Joseph. How they didn't want to listen but got themselves overthrown in the way. Or the spirit of Achan and the men in Numbers, the 25th chapter, that wanted to have a plague within the nation because they wanted to go off and do their own thing. Don't be like these men. Be different. Be like your fathers. On the right hand side, Abraham, Isaac, and let's go to Sirach 44 real quick. Because it's either you're going to be like your fathers on the left hand side, or you're going to move in the spirit of your fathers. See that? On the right hand side. I'm going to just read it. Sirach chapter 44 and verse number 1. Sirach 44 and 1. Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us. The Lord hath wrought great glory by them through his great power from the beginning. And we have fathers on the right hand side that had great power and dominion and glory from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Job, Elisha, Elijah, Isaiah, Micah, these different men. But again, make sure that we're putting away all sin that doth so easily beset us. Let's go to the book of Galatians, the 5th chapter. Galatians chapter 5 and verse number 19. Galatians 5 and verse 19. It says, idolatry, witchcraft, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, sedition, heresies, envyings, drunkenness, revilings, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I've also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. And if you have any of these spirits upon you, the Lord said you're not going to enter. Meaning what? If you do have them upon you, it's time to get it off. It's time to cleanse your spirit. All right, it's time to make sure that you are moving in the right spirit, in the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. And again, not in the spirit of the men that was listed. All right, Salakia. But with that, I'm going to close out giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. And we do so in the name of his only begotten Son, Bashem Yahushai. Kwam Yashala. Lord 1, the video was edifying. Learn some things, self-examine through the spirit. And Kwam Yashala, all praise to the Most High, Shalom.